We are now approaching London Liverpool Street.
London used to have the highest suicide rate in the country, with 16.3 cases per 100,000 people in the early 1980s. But suicide statistics released by the House of Commons Library show that this rate has more than halved since then. I wanted to find out why the rate is lower here than it is anywhere else in England, and to do this I wanted to hear from people who had experienced suicide firsthand. Former MP Elliot Colburn went viral earlier this year when he told his story in the House of Commons.
I had made the decision that morning that if I was lucky enough to get called for Prime Minister's questions, I would ask about it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In recent years, something like 6,500 people die in the UK each year due to suicide. And in 2021, I was nearly one of them.
When I was in that moment, I just felt like there was absolutely no one else out there in the world who understood, could possibly grasp what was happening. And I just felt boxed in and like there was no way out. I then got to the point where I felt lower and lower and lower as 2021 went on, to the point in December where I did make an attempt on my own life.
Does the Prime Minister agree that one death by suicide is one too many?
I wanted to get Elliot's thoughts on London's historically low suicide numbers.
I was surprised. I think the only thing that I thought of that might have explained it was around just how easy it is to access services in London, because it's so dense and because there are charities and NHS services on every street corner. I am not saying in a month of Sundays that everything is perfect. Absolutely not.
The next station is Farringdon.
Next, I went to speak to John Salmon, who told me the tragic reason why he got involved in his role as a mental health campaigner in London.
I lost my dad to suicide when I was 17, and I didn't get any help or support. I ended up having my own mental health crisis. I ended up being sectioned, did end up back in hospital a few months later after attempting to take my own life. Fast forward 15 plus years, I sadly lost a friend in 2016 when I heard the news that she had lost her life and suicide. That really made me obviously very, very sad, but also incredibly angry.
According to John, despite the comparatively low suicide rate, there is still a lot to be done in the capital.
You know, there has been a lot of campaigns in London, which I think have been quite groundbreaking. I think we have actually quite a lot of the things in place to provide better mental health support. I just don't think they're joined up enough. We have to have more collaboration. We have to have more a joined up way of thinking between charities, the NHS, governments.
Hi, James. Nice to meet you. I know, I wasn't expecting this. It was so bright and sunny back in...
This is James Ludley, Communications Lead for Thrive London, a coalition of mental health partner groups. He, like John, believes that collaboration is the best way to battle suicide.
Partnership working is the only way we can collectively achieve our aims of reducing suicides in London and reaching our ambition of being a zero suicide city. And actually there's some really well developed efforts by the City of London, the Samaritans, the RNLI to reduce suicides in the Thames, all interlinked and working together. Again, just that really collective effort across those different partners.
James introduced me to Dr. Phil Moore, GP and advisor to Thrive London, who gave me an interesting insight into the data that I've been investigating.
It has always surprised me that London is lowest. I would have expected London to be high. The reality is that the rates get higher the more rural you get, which is, we think, related to isolation and to access to means like firearms. And it gets higher the more north you go, in broad terms, which we presume is deprivation, but then there's lots of deprivation in London. I think we're doing very well in London because Thrive London has support from all of the councils, from all of the integrated care boards, which is the NHS. It has support from the NHS itself and from the London Mayor.
I think it's clear that the common theme here is collaboration and partnership, and that teamwork's the reason behind London's ever-improving suicide rate. But both James and Dr. Moore made it clear to me that their work isn't finished until their goal to be a zero-suicide city is met.
There is every reason to invest a lot of effort and time and energy and money in trying to continue to bring this down. But it's going to take an awful lot of work on a lot of fronts.
I think it's not being complacent. I think, the sad truth is there are still around 10 people a week who take their own life in London, so that's 10 too many.
I think 10 people dying every week by taking their own life is something to be ashamed of, not proud of. And if we reduce it down to one, I'll still be ashamed that we've got one.